LEC studio for our final game of the day and our final game of week 6. The reigning champions Fnatic, they are coming in with newfound confidence and they look to pull off their very first 2-0 week against Vitality. Before we move on, it says enough, I think, that we say their first 2-0 week for Fnatic, and we're in week 6. That's something that has never happened before.
Yeah, it's weird to think that Fnatic have taken so long to really be in a position where many fans are expecting them to get their first 2-0, but after their dominating performance yesterday, I feel like that they could get it this week.
Wow, so careful. They could get it. So tell me then, was this a one-off victory, or did you see things that are promising enough that they could get the win today, and possibly enough wins to get to playoffs, Aranea?
I think if Fnatic yesterday, they played a completely different style where they were the one proposing something, they were the one having game plans, they were the one doing something new. While during the split, they were really reactive to what enemy was doing, and they were kind of clueless about how to play the game.
Was that it also for you? More proactive overall was the TLDR?
Yeah, I think something that really stood out to me was the draft was one of the better ones of the split. It felt like they came in very well prepared. In particular, we saw Hylissang on a playmaker with the Galio. We saw Nemesis on a champion where I felt like he could have a lot more agency over. And the team actually better enabled Nemesis as well. And we saw Hylissang roaming around the maps. And when you better set these players up for success, we can see the quality bar of Fnatic.
I don't know if people saw that, but their draft, they instantly locked Galio and they instantly locked the next 2 picks. It was instant picks. They had a pre-game plan. They knew what they're going to pick, they knew what they're going to do, and they actually executed perfectly.
Reckless said also on PGL yesterday, people tend to forget that we didn't only lose Caps, we also lost Toas, and we also lost people behind the scenes, and that is something we have to catch up to. And I feel like yesterday was that first very, very positive point of a Fnatic we want to see that is much more proactive. And it's a very important time in the split as well. As said, they are falling dangerously low in the standings. They are fighting with Misfits, SK, Splyce, Origin, all of these really good teams to make it into the top 6. Playoffs, they've never missed before.
And it's a really bad day for Fnatic as well, because not only did Misfits win, but SK also won. Origin dropped down. So now you have all these teams sitting at 6-6, and the gap between them and Fnatic is very big right now. So if Fnatic don't get a win today, their road to playoffs becomes that much harder.
I mean, actually, I think for Fnatic, it's good that SK wins, because if they actually are tied, if they are tied, their face-to-face is so wrong. It's 2-0 for SK, so there's no chance for them to actually beat them. So actually, if all the teams are tied with Fnatic and they have a good head-to-head, they can go to playoffs.
What we heard yesterday as well from Reckless was, no, it's not about limping into playoffs and getting in an S6 spot. It is about being in a form that you can contest for the actual title. Otherwise, what the hell are you here for? And I think another team that has been doing very well in that regard is Vitality. Their opponents, we asked the question yesterday, what is next for Vitality? How is their evolution going? And well, they play some oddball games, but they win the ones they need to in Schalke and yesterday's Splyce.
It's one of those weird situations where when we spoke about Vitality yesterday, it was, well, you have to look at the 2 carries in Jizuke and Cabochard, and you have inconsistencies in the bot lane and in the jungle. What happened? The bot lane dies 2 versus 2, the jungle is diving the tier 2 tower, and the mid laner in Jizuke is solo carrying one of his classic picks. And I just feel like that you can't get more Vitality than what you saw yesterday.
Yeah, this guy was definitely showing up and they needed it, and there's a super interesting matchup going on in this game. It is this guy, Jizuke, up versus Nemesis, who know each other very well from the Superliga Orange. Aranea, break it down.
I mean, it was the first finals. We came as Mad Lions. We had to play versus Giants when Jizuke was playing on Giants with Gilius. And it was actually a raw final because we lost 2-3, but I think all the spotlight was on these 2 guys. It was on Nemesis and Jizuke carrying both teams. They both played really, really well. They both were probably the 2 best players out of the all LCS, and I think it was brilliant to watch them clashing against each other, because it was actually a magnificent games and it was really beautiful to watch.
And I love also following this story because Jizuke came to the LCS, then the EU LCS, now LEC last year, immediately got Rookie of the Split, and he's a bit further on his trajectory. And Nemesis just came in this year on this storied lineup of Fnatic, but you know, he's a bit behind Jizuke when it comes to LEC standards, right? He has to show a bit more. Do you guys think he'll be able to do it it against his old rival today.
I think one of the biggest differences between the two players is that when Jizuke made his debut on the stage, he was turning heads without really much jungle assistance. He was doing it by himself. And unfortunately, Nemesis is just a slightly different player in how he approaches the game. And he just needs that extra bit of assistance, which he hasn't got yet. But yesterday, we saw that when you give him just a small lead, he turns it into a 25 stacks Mejai's, and he becomes the player of the game. So I feel like that all they need to do is invest a little bit more into him, and we can see the same performance from Nemesis that we saw from Jizuke last year.
I think last split when Nemesis was playing for Mad Lions, he was playing with Selfmade, and Selfmade was playing around him.
Yes.
We were always playing around him or around Worldlip, especially like the two solo laners, and they were showing up. They were actually performing really well. They were actually converting every single lead into a global lead or into probably wins. But this split, we've seen a Fnatic that is not playing that much around Nemesis, and it's kind of hard for them.
Yeah, the players are about ready, but to summarize, it's on the heads of these two guys. Jizuke, if he wants to get Vitality in that all-important top 2, and Nemesis, if Fnatic wants to keep their chances at playoffs alive. Everything is set for an invigorating end to Week 6 as Vitality and Fnatic clash on the Rift. Take it away, Dracos.
Thank you, Shocks. I'd also like to welcome Christy Ender Frierson to the desk. Hello, this is the camaraderie.
Thanks
welcome.
guys.
Frosted it to you. Synergy. We're forming a triangle. That's the plan.
Illuminati
Through this, our
confirmed.
power will flow.
This is not uncomfortable. This is perfect.
Yeah, you're not uncomfortable
This is
at all.
okay.
All right, Fnatic versus Vitality. We'll talk about the matchup, and it's going to be an exciting one because yesterday, Fnatic obliterated Origin. It was wild to watch, and if you're wondering which part to watch, you could watch minute 1 through 20. Really pick any 1 minute, and you will see someone on Origin die. The question is, can they rinse and repeat that same success today? And as we enter the draft, the first question is, can they set themselves up to do so?
I do want to point out that it was Vitality that had side selection here. They side selected to go towards the red side, and the last 2 drafts, the Vitality have had red side selection. They actually used that last pick to counter pick the jungle position. It's so important for Vitality that Mowgli has a winning matchup, because what they do is they create pressure in their lanes to open up space for Mowgli to start blitzing in and contesting enemy junglers.
Yeah, and I think a large part of that comes down to Jizuke also getting those advantageous lanes. We saw him piloting the Echo yesterday into the Zoe. He was an absolute madman on the champion. So really, Vitality all across the board are looking to secure as many good lanes as possible to support Mowgli in his aggressive playstyle.
And on the other side, Fnatic love to priority pick their bot lane. Last time around, they did it with Haley's pick. I don't know if it's going to be the Kai'Sa priority with so many other champions up and available.
There's a Lucian up and available.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
I feel like Vitality are throwing down the gauntlet. They say, Reckless, we've seen you play the Lucian this split. It has not looked amazing. It hasn't up until this point. They're saying, we don't think you'll pick it. They do pick it. Maybe it'll count against them.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't until yesterday, right, that we actually saw Reckless and Hylissang have a really dominant performance, specifically in the laning phase. Reckless has always been the team fight AD carry. Now, this season has been about him solidifying himself in the lane. Picks like Lucian paired up with a Braum or Pyke, something aggressive, and that's what Fnatic might be looking for here to get things going on the bottom half of the
All
map.
right, but Vitality are getting a lot of comfort picks here. They're getting the Jarvan and the Tahm Kench, but on the opposite side, it feels like outside of the Kai'Sa pick, we're seeing a very similar draft to what we saw from Fnatic yesterday with the Zoe and the Nocturne paired together.
Whoa, that's also a Ashe lock-in.
So that's a little bold. A much more defensive option here. Normally we expect Attila to go toe-to-toe in terms of like aggressive playmaking style. Now willing to play the more utility AD carry here.
Yeah, they're taking the utility here for Attila, but also Ashe is one of those champions that can be used with her volley to get early lane priority down on that bottom half of the map, so they can sort of nullify the presence of Lucian in the 2v2 by pushing him in and getting a level advantage themselves.
And frankly, if you just traded that Lucian pick for the Galio, which was banned away, that's exactly the first 3 picks that we saw from Fnatic crush Origin with, and it was a level 2 dive with a Nocturne Galio from Hilly and Broxah. So by having Tahm Kench and Ashe, you're basically denying that option. Like, Fnatic will not be able to run that same play again.
You say that, and I would be with you, except Origin had Tahm Kench yesterday too, and the game was so fast, so early on, that they did not get the chance. Now, of course, very hard to replicate the same kind of early game aggression, but as we enter the second ban phase, we see things like the Thresh taking out the board, some more of these playmakers, the Aatrox and the Ryze banned away as well.
And keep in mind now that Vitality know that Zoe is going into the middle lane, so they can go ahead and pick up their mid lane champion right now as their 4th pick. Save that last pick for jungle or top, because we saw them flex the Jarvan into the top lane yesterday, but it has been another one of those constant picks that Mowgli has performed on so well in the past.
It's always going to be the last pick reveal. You know, is it the Jarvan jungle? Is it Cabochard? Cabo, his Jace has actually slipped through, so there's still the possibility that you get one of those hard carry champions from Cabo that isn't the likes of the Jarvan.
Already seeing 2 of Jizuke's signature mid lane champions banned away, the Rise and the Echo. Of course, that was the champion that he demolished Zoe on yesterday. We have seen Syndra and LeBlanc as 2 solid answers into that Zoe, but
man.
baby, this Fizz.
How many mid lane assassins will Jizuke play? That's the question. We've got the Echo, and now we've got the Fizz as well.
Yeah, I mean, I love this too, and it's the same theory here as on the Echo pick. Fizz has tools to dodge away from the bubble if he gets hit, but look, this guy at level 6 can just force on top of Zoe's face, and again, that Zoe will never be able to match him in a 1v1 outside of the laning phase.
And now Hylissang going to respond with the Rakan as well. This champion, of course, heavily nerfed. Has seen some success since those big nerfs came through, since he became much slower on that grand entrance, but not something we see very frequently on the opposite side. Blippo getting a strong laner. First time in a long time we've seen him take a solid pick into the top lane and get a really powerful pick instead of playing a more tanky option.
Here's the thing though, blind picking Yorick, while he has looked so good here, is very risky. You can take picks like Jax or Fiora into him and contest him in the side lane. Cabochard has been a staple of success on this Vitality roster. They could just put the Jarvan topside, but I'd like to see him on something that can contest that 1v1.
I mean, that said, if you're still the Jarvan, you've got the Elise, and with the Elise locked in, it was the counter pick of the jungle. Mowgli has revealed his hand. It's always going to be about Mowgli when Vitality take the stage. But that dive potential top lane between Jarvan and Elise, that is very terrifying.
Yeah, and I mean, Vitality did this same thing yesterday, right? Where they kept the Elise until last, put the Jarvan in the top lane, and just hammered on that top laner. Right now, Blippo is on this Yorick, which is a little exploitable to early game gank. So Mowgli, his hand has been played here. He knows he wants to be pathing for the top side.
And the shift too for Blippo is that he's no longer on a pick like the Scion, something that can just provide that utility in teamfights, that can be that tank. He's on someone that kind of wants to lead in Yorick, that wants to be more of a split pushing threat very frequently. So while yesterday falling behind 20-30 CS didn't really matter in the game, falling behind here could be devastating.
And what's really terrifying is it's not just the dive potential between the Jarvan and Elise, the dive potential between the playful Trickster as well as the repel from Elise. Like, Mowgli has more options than just invading the Nocturne, more options than just camping for Cabochard. He can also look towards Jizuke, and one of the coolest things about Elise is her ability to springboard and snowball bruisers in lane because of the dive threat. You can get these champions going very early on in the game.
Yeah, I mean, you have a lot of kill pressure between these 2 solo laners, and I think for Vitality, they can go ahead and play a very similar style to yesterday. You can camp Jizuke in a side lane, let him build up an advantage there, and then use the Elise and the Ashe to search for picks after building up those waves, taking control over the map, and catching Fnatic by surprise.
Ooh, and now, of course, pressure starts to mount as we enter game. Yesterday it was Vitality fell behind a little bit, found an explosive mid lane fight, and of course Fnatic dictating the pace from minute 1. Can't imagine we'll see the same explosive level 1s today, and then the question becomes, can Fnatic still find these big leads? Can they still play this dominant style?
And then on the other side, can Vitality find the consistency to go toe-to-toe? It feels like each weekend we see an incredible Vitality and we see an incredibly susceptible Vitality. So which version are we going to get against a rising Fnatic today?
Oh, and it's interesting. Vitality throwing down the gauntlet here, ready to go toe-to-toe. The Echo gets banned. They pick up the Fizz anyway. Fnatic versus Vitality, but it's Jizuke's first Fizz game. And Fnatic ready to shout him down. Fans in the crowd hungry for blood.
Now, the last time these 2 teams met all the way back in week 1, it was actually Vitality that got the better of them, but Nemesis did manage to solo kill Jizuke in the lane. Now, Jizuke turned into a 30 CS lead, he won the game, had a sick Aurelia performance, but Nemesis, we saw RNA talk about it on the analyst desk. I think he has a bit of a grudge match here. Probably wanting to get a little bit of revenge, prove that, you know, I can be Rookie of the Split, I can be in this contention title.
Yeah, he definitely wants to take some of that voice back for himself after players like Selfmade have taken so much control. But now my eyes move towards these two junglers, because it doesn't look like we're going to get any level 1 kill here for Fnatic. We know Mowgli plays so aggressively, and with Broxah using the sweeper here to actually clear away one of those wards at level 1, Fnatic are on the prowl. They're moving inside of the Vitality jungle, and Jizuke will not see them coming.
Spider will spot them out. 2 members there. Cabo potentially ready to contest. York level 1, definitely not the strongest in the game. Have to be careful, but of course Elise level 1 as well with the W start very weak.
This is also the same strategy that Fnatic used the last time they faced Vitality. They invaded Mowgli level 1 both times to disrupt his pathing, recognizing how important he is to Vitality.
And notice exactly what this does here. Because Broxah and the rest of Fnatic force Mowgli onto the bottom half of the map is now effectively split. Broxah takes control over top side, and Mowgli is forced bottom. In draft, we brought up how Mowgli wants to play for top lane. There's so much kill threat there with a Jarvan and an Elise, and with a clever level 1 plan, Fnatic have stopped that from being a viable option.
And while it wasn't explosive like yesterday's level 1 plan, it is still quite effective. Now, interestingly enough, Broxah is just going to go down to the bottom side of the map to his own jungle just to contest, just to make sure Mowgli doesn't get anything here, and will fight for the Scuttle Crab. Of course, level 2 and a red buff means that Broxah is definitely in a position of power.
And he's able to do that because Nemesis has lane priority right now, initially in the early levels against the Fizz, which allows him to walk through the mid lane and make sure that he can get that Scuttle Crab.
Yeah, I like what Nemesis is doing there, throwing the Paddle Star forward, not throwing it back for the cheeky long-range shot, just kind of threatening Jizuke that if you step forward and approach his wave, you're going to get hit and your wave is going to get hit. So keeps the pressure up for now, and Mowgli going topside for Krugs. This is a long, lonely road for the little spider to get level 3.
Yeah, he's taken a very roundabout path because he doesn't know exactly where the vision is for Fnatic. He doesn't want to give away the fact that he's going to be up here, but realistically, Fnatic should know. He has no more camps to farm down on that bottom half, so Bwipo up topside, he's going to be allowing that lane to push in. Hopefully it doesn't get too far forward, and then by being on this half of the lane, it allows him to be pretty safe here against any potential gank.
Yeah, that's the thing for Bwipo. He's been out of sync, out of step recently with, or excuse me, in the first weeks with Broxah, has left himself exposed to gank. So this time around, it looks like the right call across the map for Fnatic. Just let Bwipo get pulled in.
Now right there, Attila took the Hawk shot at level 2 and actually used that to spot out Broxah recalling on top of the red buff. So I'm unsure what this will mean Mowgli does. Now Broxah did go back to base, has the challenging smite, so it should be harder for Mowgli to duel, but he has no camps available and has a lot of pressure in the top side.
Yeah, but I see one big target on the back of Bwipo. Maybe where Mowgli is going to go. Broxah is steadily moving his way up. Creep wave is here, but the ghouls are here to disrupt this. Bwipo will not be dived.
Yeah, with the creep wave there, it stops any cocoon from landing. Now Mowgli probably going to have to turn tail and run. Broxah with the red smite as well as the red buff means Mowgli has to get out of dodge.
And that was the question, you know, with the information that Mowgli got via Hawk Shot, what was he going to do with it? And it was indecision. Do I take the blue buff, immediately start it, and try to get away with not being 3-buffed, or do I look for the possible dive? That indecision, he doesn't try to execute the dive. It means that Broxah is able to cover not only his top laner, but also 3-buff Mowgli.
Taking a big chunk there as well, and there's no camps for Mowgli to retreat to. This is a very difficult early game for Vitality. They're losing pressure on the bottom side of the map. The most that Ashe has provided in this game at this stage is the Hawk Shot for that vision, and didn't amount to much either. So a lot of very small decisions paying off big for Fnatic.
Yeah, I mean, we did see Attila and Jack Troll pushing very early on at level 1 like we did expect, but you reach a certain point in this lane phase where, again, Rekkles has some mobility built into his kit. He's going to be rocking the teleport as well, so they actually push this wave all the way in here on the Fnatic side. They have a 16 CS advantage here with Attila being denied that. That is massive here for Rekkles, who was allowed to just teleport back into lane and continue to build that one up even higher.
700 gold lead at 5 minutes is pretty immense when it's coming just from CS. Not any major plays, obviously just jungle camp difference, some individual lane differences as well, and now Broxah set up to control the entire map. Mowgli doing what he can to scrape by, to grab a little bit of these camps, but Elise in a deficit is one of the worst champions. Just do not get the luxury of the burst damage. You still have dive threat, but when this champion falls behind, she feels so powerless.
Yeah, it's the difference of being Yankos or being a stun bot. You know, either you're just there for the cocoon or you actually have the ability to itemize into the AP and have that massive assassination potential.
And we talk about the weaknesses of Elise, but right now Mowgli is getting destroyed in the pathing department. He goes topside. There's no camps for him up there. He has to go for a gank now because he's getting counter jungled on the bottom side.
Bwipo's ready for it. He knows there's only one option. Broxah's already on the bottom side taking the camps. Process of elimination. They can just guess where this guy is. spot him out on the ward, and now Broxah gets free access to move back up to the top side.
And Broxah's pathing is just excellent right now. He knows exactly what the respawn timers of Mowgli's camps are going to be. Now he's pathing back towards the top side, but that's because he's approaching the level 6. He's sort of skyrocketed himself towards getting that marker even sooner. Now with the Scuttle Crab take as well, you'd expect him to be, you know, bullied by an Elise in the early game, but that's just not going to happen here.
Yeah, it's complete access to multiple camps, stealing away from Mowgli, as well as getting all of those 3 buffs, which allow him to get closer to that level 6 so fast. And now with also his laners being level 6, Broxah has every option in the world.
Jizuke feeling confident and stepping forward. Level 6, of course, the big point that we talked about for the Fizz. Now has a lot more kill pressure in his lane. But is this enough to turn it? If Jizuke is able to find a kill here, does this really change anything? Because Mowgli is still so incredibly far behind.
Well, what Jizuke actually needs in order to secure a kill is a flash of burns. So I think Vitality have to play a little bit slower in that sense, where you bring Mowgli around the middle lane, can flash, and then Jizuke can go ahead and make solo plays on his own. And eventually, again, once he does get out of this lane, it becomes much harder for Fnatic to deal with it. That's when Fnatic are going to have to sort of turn on the gas much quicker, because when you have 2 people on Vitality's side lanes pushing in towards towers, Fnatic will be forced to make a call.
Absolutely will be. Reckless, though, right now sitting pretty on the bottom side of the map, has the Dark Seal as well, so just wants to sustain pressure here on the bottom side. And interesting enough, Broxah getting the level 6 well ahead of Mowgli, just barely getting level 5, 7 minutes and 30 seconds of the game. Mowgli maybe hoping to make a play. I think just sapping XP in this lane, hoping maybe the Nemesis will stay. But they don't know where Brox is. I think the Hawkshot, they're scouting. They're hoping he's not in the brush there, but he's moving down to the bottom side, does get spotted out. This means that they know that the play is coming. Still an Ashe and a Tahm Kench, still a difficult lane to pressure, but the blue buff is in the eyes of Fnatic.
Yeah, already Nemesis is here. Mowgli is waiting here with the smite for himself, but this 2v2 probably doesn't go too well, because the bottom lane of Fnatic have moved up, and Mowgli decides probably can't make a play.
Fighter. Oh, Nemesis gets it in the end. And right now, a completely dominant early game for Fnatic. It is not super explosive. It is about these small decisions once again, but things are looking good. Nemesis is clearing the wave comfortably, 72 CS to 52. And I want to take a moment to talk a little bit about the standings as we see these lanes shift, because Fnatic are really comfortable in every single one of their lanes. And if you look at the individual score lines for both these teams, the 4-7 for Fnatic, if we take the Fnatic name off there, if we take the Vitality nameplate off there, and you showed me this game, I would tell you 100% that Fnatic was the 8-3 team right now, that they were the dominant team in the league. And you can see how important this game is for both of these lineups, for Fnatic desperately clawing up the standings, and for Vitality, who are trying as hard as they can to hold on to this number 2 spot.
Oh, hold on.
Jizuke, though, going for Nemesis. This could be the first big boon. Out comes the Nocturne ultimate. Goes into the air, flashes forward. Jizuke trading 1 for 1. That is a start for the Vitality side.
Yeah, Jizuke gets the last laugh here, and there was the big Summoner Flash burnt now for Nemesis, so that means it's a very possible repeat gank for Jizuke and Mowgli if they want to try to exploit this, because while Vitality, it looked pretty rocky in the early game pathing, they can always fall back to the tried and true, wait for Cabo and Jizuke to carry in a side lane.
They absolutely can, and on the other side of things, how tragic for Broxah to use his first ult just to trade kills in the mid lane after his own Nemesis takes a poor 1v1. He got the EXP lead. He does have a level advantage, but it's somewhat wasted here just trying to pick up some scraps after this 1v1.
Goes through. Beautiful dodge down the Sleepy Trouble Bubble, using the dive through on the Fizz. And this play, love the flash to follow. So clutch, such a small timing window. Well played by Jizuke in the end to make that. And of course, it's going to be a 1-for-1 because there's a Nocturne on the enemy team. Really no avoiding it at that point.
Yeah, that's what happens. And of course, Jizuke, if you look at this matchup, you know he's going to lose in CS. And every single time Fizz has been picked in pro play, you look historically back 2013, 2014, he always lost lane early on. He got pushed in, he missed minions. But at level 6, if he gets on top of you, the champion does an absurd amount of damage. And Zoe doesn't have the tools in her kit to be able to escape from that.
I mean, the reality is that you just pack as many pots as possible, Corruption Potion, Biscuits, you grab it all, and you just say, I'm trading my health for this CS, and you try not to fall too far behind on the Fizz.
Yeah, and the big thing here for Jizuke is a lot of times you see in bad matchups like this, the melee champion runs TP just to stay alive. Jizuke was confident enough not to run that Summoner spell, which allows him to have the DPS to burst Nemesis out at level 6.
And of course, the Ignite going to be off cooldown pretty quickly. Does offer that kill threat. The ultimate already available. Huge
He threw it
burst of
again.
damage. Wants to go in. Nemesis is going to use the stopwatch here and wants to make it safe. But the chain CC is there for Mowgli. The portal jump brings it back, but immediately comes in. Now it's Broxah trying to turn the play around. Mowgli in trouble. Flashes forward. Goes up, comes down, and will make it out. Vitality find another kill in the mid lane.
And this is going to be the easy call for Jizuke and Mowgli because they know that that flash is down. As long as that cooldown's there, Nemesis has to be so much more respectful about where he steps in this lane.
Absolutely, and Vitality will continue to abuse this because not only do you have the Elise to make these types of plays, but just call down Cabochard in the next 3 minutes while Nemesis doesn't have the flash, lock him up in the Cataclysm. This is a lane that Vitality can constantly look to abuse, and it's really hard for Fnatic to try and defend against those sorts of plays.
We'll take a look back at this one, and you kind of just wait. Where is the Fizz ultimate going to go? And it's right there.
Yeah, I mean, just look how nicely Jizuke plays it. He uses the Q to close the gap because he's maxing the E. That's where the damage comes from on the Fizz. It gives room now for Mowgli to come in with the Elise. He knows he needs one more flash, and then a nice E to escape, taking a little bit of extra damage on the back end of that trade.
And once again, a catastrophically poor early game for Mowgli, getting absolutely outpathed by Broxah, but a single play like that starts to turn things around. You can see the itemization just about spot even. Difference is the stopwatch for Broxah. That will be important, but at least coming back into the game, getting that runic echoes, not falling short in the early game is huge. And now we see Vitality swapping up to the top side, ready to shift the map.
They're looking for a dive, and they're also packing more power for the punch because Attila's here as well. So Ash Arrow, Cataclysm, Abyssal Voyage.
It's 4 members strong. Whippo versus the world. I don't think there's any way he can survive at this point. The CC comes in, Mowgli's going to tank first. He swaps form, he goes up, he comes down, and that is so clean. Vitality going to grab it.
Really clutch there from Vitality. They knew they were losing their bottom lane turret. Reckless and Hylissang had been dominating down there the entire game, so they get Attila and Jack Troll out of there for a great play.
Now trying to shut down the Fizz. Chains, oh, not quite enough. He leaps out, but the Fear Tether's still attached. He's fleeing. Nocturne trying to find the kill. Hylissang goes down, though. Makes it a 1-for-1 in the end. Reckless still bot side, though. Still gets all that solo gold, an immense amount of gold going into Fnatic's pockets, and Vitality's still struggling to kill this first turret.
Yeah, that's the cherry on top. It's the fact that Fnatic not only trade the objectives across map, making sure that they also get the tower first from Reckless, but then pull the trigger on the mid lane play to get massive damage there, as well as, I think, 2 plates in Nemesis' pocket.
And remember, that's a 0-0 Lucian with a 550 gold bounty. So the amount of gold that's going into Reckless's pockets right now is insane. When this man finally backs, he's going to have at least the Blade of the Rune King. 2,500 in the inventory right now. Huge 50 CS lead in lane. But remember, we need Reckless to carry on this champion for Fnatic if he's got all this gold.
I mean, and the scary thing now for Fnatic is, yes, Reckless has all the money, but there's a Fizz, a Jarvan, and Elise all trying to jump onto him on the other side of the map, and that's a pretty low-range AD carry. He definitely puts himself at risk in these 5v5, so he's going to have to play these fights just about perfectly to try and survive against Jizuke.
Now, while there is a lot of backline dive threat, the nice thing is that there's not a true tank on the side of Vitality, which means this Lucian's damage is never going to fall off. He's going to have kill pressure, or at least team fighting pressure on every single one of these champions. So there's never going to be a point where you're like, man, I wish we had a hyper-scaling ADC rather than a Lucian.
Exactly, and I think against these sort of scrappier team fights, Lucian does have his strengths, because once you sort of get some more CDR, you finish off the Black Cleaver, you glide around in these fights, you constantly reset the cooldown of your Relentless Pursuit by just proccing your passive, so the more autos you get down, the more spells you actually cast, the more times you get to dash around and try to avoid the jumping and the dive here from Vitality.
Playing dodgeball.
But you can see, obviously, the vision control for Vitality is still strong as they're able to dive that tower. They know that the Rift Herald is being contested at this point. Have that ward in the pit to spot it out. We'll use the Hawk Shot as well, but still Fnatic can continue this one.
There's some pretty good teleport wards here as well for Vitality if they want to pull the trigger.
I mean, that said, Cabo's just, you know, in the neighborhood. You could just
Hanging out.
have a walk by.
Let Whippo catch up a little bit in farm while he wanders into the mid lane, ready to murder Nemesis. Of course, has to be careful. Nocturnal now coming out, has already used the E, has to flash as well. Running back to the Elise. Jizuke playing very aggressive, trading a lot of those abilities for the ulti from Broxah.
And you can see how much Vitality they want to make these plays. Cabo had walked up as well. They used the ultimate out of the Ashe, and unfortunately they have to back away because Whippo pushed up that bottom lane, and now Fnatic will start up the Herald.
And flash for flash trade, not the end of the world because Jizuke still has Playful Trickster. It means a lot more for Nemesis, but the big one was losing the Ashe Arrow. Without that big engage, and with Cabo having to respect the wave that's built up from Whippo on the bottom side, that's what grants Fnatic easy access to the Rift Herald.
And we can see now they are uncontested as they try to finish it. And just a difficult spot for Vitality to be because they are the ones that need to play kind of flawlessly here, as Fnatic do have the advantage at this point in the game. Pressure is on them to find those arrows, those big ultimates to turn this game around. That said, they have done a good job of minimizing what could have been a very disastrous early game. Although Mowgli does have to be careful. That is one very squishy spider. Oof. Flash. Good burn there.
He picked that one up.
Yeah, not the end of the world. And I feel bad for Jack Troll, because he's looking down a Fed Zoe. He's looking at a Fed Nocturne. And that makes it very difficult for the Tahm Kench, because he has to not only devour perfectly, he then may also die in the process just trying to save his AD carry.
Yeah, so often you'll see teams just go ahead and gang up on the Tahm Kench, because, you know, he can't really save himself all too well. But a big difference for me in this game, for Jizuke specifically, is that he does have the Ignite. And it's not the Unsealed Spellbook like we saw yesterday. It's the Electrocute, because he needs the damage to secure kills. But that makes it much harder for him to go into a side lane. Right now, both him and Attila and Jack Troll are all around the mid lane, because they want to force an engagement. They want to protect him from any type of Nocturne ultimate play, but he just wants to go in.
Ulti going to come out. Leaps right over the Sleeping Trouble bubble. That's going to mean a lot of immediate damage. Jizuke, though, going to be in trouble. Tahm Kench coming in, but not enough to save him. Nemesis starting to burn down. They are able to grab the kill, but immediately going to go forward. The Devour still available. The Ash going to be spit right back out. Attila's still alive. Now retreating. Whippo stepping forward, looking for the Morning Mist. Does manage to connect. Not in the end. Cools it. Leaping onto Attila. Does hit it. Now trying to chase it up. A Mowgli on the retreat. Fnatic barreling down the mid lane. They have the Herald as well. Eyes on Cabo. Goes over the wall. Wants to go right in on Broxy. Is going to get the kill, but immediately Jose tries to find the follow-up engage. And now the damage is coming through as Whippo is finding his way to the back line. The Coaling coming out from Lucian and just barely short. But Fnatic looking for this tier 2 tower.
Yeah, and the big thing is the fact that not only do they take the team fight, but they have Maiden and the creep wave behind them.
Flag and drag. Attila now trying to fire back. Cabo getting a lot of damage down here, still alive. Have to respect the Ash potential. Good damage coming out, stopping the push in its tracks, and they're not able to use the Herald there either.
I mean, you say that, but Reckless and Whippo are still going here. I think Jizuke might dissuade them, but that was really the big save by Cabo Shard.
I feel like Jizuke wants a little more. He's going to leap forward. Cabo's here still trying to extend the play. Reckless has to be careful. Level 12 to level 10. Trying to hit damage down on Whippo. Very close exchange. Pushed back there. Nemesis is here in the mid lane. Cabo is going to keep chasing this one. The rest of the team is here. He's laying down a bit more vision. Very chaotic exchange.
Oh man, these teams both want blood. I mean, we knew we were going to see some aggressive fighting, but right now it's just sort of resting on a knife's edge. We're going to get one more look at this team fight because it starts with a hugely deep dive here on the side of Jizuke. Once again, you see he uses the minion to dash through with the Q, and then he dodges from the bubble and dives under the tower. Now, the Ignite will end up finishing him off, but not before Whippo comes in to trade kills. Then Broxa goes in. Of course, Tahm Kench will be able to save his AD carry, and it looks like, hey, we're not going to have any more fighting, but you have to keep your eye on Cabo Shard, who's on the flank.
Yeah, and then Cabo comes in, basically just drops down, says thank you very much for the shutdown bonus. I think it's 450. Yep, there we go.
But look at the sort of bait and switch right there. As Cabo Shard dives straight on towards the enemy jungler, Hylissang sees his opening to dive and kill Mowgli and Jack Troll in that exchange. So overall, it ends up being a big win for Fnatic as they get the mid lane turret on top of it.
And difficult spot for Reckless because despite TPing into that play, does not get an assist, does not get a kill, does not get anything there, but is around for the gold. Of course, now as this tower falls, so just the Lucian has not quite had the impact yet that Fnatic may need it to, and it is allowing Vitality to go kind of even in these fights.
Actually, look at this right now. There's no one sort of matching Vitality on the bottom side of the map. They had a push in the mid lane as well, but in the meantime, Reckless is still going topside with the Herald. Fnatic knew they had the tempo advantage and called the bluff by Vitality. Vitality had to recall out of bottom lane and now go top lane to pick up and stop the Herald from taking an inhibitor.
It's also the fact that while all of this dancing has happened in this ARAM mid lane of Cabo Shard running in and out of the play, Reckless has been left on an island. Yeah, he attempted to get involved with it, but that's 215 CS to 145. This is a massive Lucian.
Absolutely. You look at the gold differences now, 9,170 and growing to the 6,800 on the opposite side. The good news, though, for Vitality lineup is that Cabo is kind of contesting here in terms of raw gold value. He's been doing very well. 226 to 162 is the CS number, and may be able to match Lucian in terms of raw damage output if he gives him the chance. But Lucian obviously a much easier character to protect in the fights to come.
I think Vitality are sort of running into a problem right now, and that's that they really want to force these engagements. While Reckless is off farming in a side lane, they're bringing Attila and Jizuke into the mid lane to try and force fights, but that's actually costing Attila and Jizuke a lot of farm respectively. You have a 50 CS difference between Nemesis and Jizuke. You have a, what is that, 60 difference between Reckless and Attila. It's really building up because Vitality keeps sending multiple members to the mid lane looking for a fight, and because they aren't getting a big enough win off of that, and often even losing these exchanges, Fnatic are building up a massive farm advantage.
But you said it yourself, it's difficult for Jizuke to go out to those side lanes if it's not the top lane because he doesn't have access to that teleport. Because he took the Ignite, he wants the 1v1 potential, he's pretty much locked to only top lane, otherwise it's a massive numbers advantage for the Baron.
Yeah, and I think ideally for this Vitality team fight, or actually just how they want to play out the game, you have Attila and Jack Troll mid. You want to push with the Ashe and threaten collapsing on side lanes with the Tahm Kench. But the fact of the matter is, with the lead that Nemesis has, he can sort of take control over this middle lane, and then all of a sudden Fnatic have complete control over the river. Vitality have a really tough time procuring vision for themselves because the just 100 to 0 burst of this Zoe plus Nocturne composition makes it very hard to face check.
Yeah, it's the fact that Broxa has access to the GA as well, pretty much right on time for this game, but in the combination of the Zoe burst, how she can lock down choke points and secure river, and then the threat of Broxa to freely dive knowing that he has the GA, that's what's holding Vitality at bay around this Baron area.
And I do really like that both these guys have kind of gotten ahead in their own way. Of course, Nemesis is obviously 0-3, not ideal for himself, but a massive CS lead is helping him out. And they both opted for a defensive item, meaning that even if they find that pick and Vitality try to turn, they're both set up that once the team gets there, they can absolutely smash that fight.
I mean, Nemesis needs it because he needs to make sure that he can use the stasis to go through the Fizz ultimate, because Jizuke is looking for the same play every single time. Nemesis uses the R, he goes forward, Jizuke will Q in and throw the ultimate in the Q animation to make sure the ultimate connects.
And interestingly enough, the first dragon of the game, the Cloud will go down. Hylissang sidestep there. It is a difficult spot, but Fizz is kind of a champion where you're never really surprised. He kind of always wants to go forward. He will occasionally dash away from you, but when you're his target, you know, hey, at a certain point, he's just going to dash into me.
Yeah, Jizuke definitely wants to be finding the targets, going to be going back to base, trying to finish off that Lich Bane, picking up the Lich Bane, going to give him a lot more kill threat onto these priority targets of Nemesis and Reckless. And we finally saw him pushing up on the top side of the map, but because Vitality don't have any vision control inside of the Fnatic blue buff side jungle, he can't actually extend that far. That means he's not actually finding any members of Fnatic that he can even hope to assassinate, so won't be able to extend that advantage for the time being.
They're looking for Ashe Arrow right now.
They're going to fish for it.
Who are they going to find?
I think they're looking for the Zoe. Want to shut down Nemesis. Very important to take that target out. Of course, the Zhonya's is available. The chain CC is there for the team if they can land that arrow, maybe kill him before the Zhonya's goes off. There's the ulti. Zhonya's, though, is going to be utilized.
And right now, Vitality not actually confident enough to take down this turret. They had the numbers advantage for sure, but Fnatic, Reckless, pushing in the top lane. Vitality once again sacrificing minions in the side lanes, looking for a fight to be had, but they were not able to actually execute and find that pick.
And in this slowed down game state, Frostgrind, who is this actually benefiting? Who is actually coming out on top in this just slow, steady, kind of grindy game where neither team has been able to get a greater advantage quite yet?
I mean, right now, Fnatic have all of the tempo because while Vitality have to constantly reset their side waves before they can group up and look for a play, Fnatic have all of the capabilities to also look for picks, and here they go.
Go, Jack Troll. Immediate use of the thick skin. Wreck was caught out, but no follow-up there, and has a lot of members surrounding him to make sure nothing is going to happen here.
Meanwhile, Yorick split pushing in the bottom lane. Again, Fnatic now sort of rotating down here to back him up. He built up a pretty large minion wave, and there just aren't the amount of bodies Vitality needs to defend this tower.
And as well, Cabo needs to immediately leap out. The ghouls are now chasing, and Mowgli's trying to back him up, but it's just an Elise. It's simply not enough. They are going to have to concede this tier 2 tower. And Bwipo, despite being put behind, building up those waves on the side lane. That's a sleepy Elise. Gets the spiders, but not Mowgli in the end.
And Fnatic can be this brazen as they are forcing waves onto the tower, kind of hanging around, because again, as long as they have information about where Jizuke is, they know that the TP's not coming. They know that they have the numbers advantage here, so they're going to take their time. This isn't just a, force the tower or force the wave in and then quickly reset or don't overextend. They can overextend all that they want. No one is coming to help Vitality when Fnatic have them locked under a tower.
Especially when they're ganking and collapsing on the only teleport in the game for this Vitality lineup, which is, of course, Cabo. Maybe you can hope for Jack Troll to offer a little bit more map mobility, but otherwise they are definitely in a deficit in terms of the ability to teleport between lanes. Both Reckless and Bwipo can move across the map freely with those TPs.
And all they really completed while Vitality lost that bottom tower was they got the Lich Bane off of Fizz, but that's about it.
Right now, Vitality showing almost uncharacteristic indecision. And I think a part of that comes down to how defensively Fnatic have been playing this game, but Vitality is not a team that we look at and say, oh, you know, maybe they struggle to pull the trigger, because quite frankly, this is a team that loves to just go in.
They struggle not to, and
Yeah.
is way more often the issue.
And that's what we're sort of seeing right here is a team that is locked in second place in the league, struggling. Again, we talk about those records. Fnatic is in 8th place at the moment. Every single game counts for them to try and move into playoff contention. And it is just now the 25-minute mark that we finally see Vitality group up, push down that mid lane turret, and try to arrest some more control over the map.
Fnatic willing to give that one up, not wanting to contest here. Jizuke coming back, obviously, with the Lich Bane, providing more dive threat before, and just more members present in this mid lane.
Rinse and repeat. We're looking for another arrow.
Arrow is going to connect onto Bwipo, though. Definitely not a priority target. Immediately, the Nocturnal comes out. It's going to make it very difficult to play the fight. Mowgli goes up and will come right back down. They're trying to peel back. Jizuke has used the Zhonya's. Brock's left into the back line. He's now going to try to get the follow kill on the jungler. Cabo now trying to find his way to the middle of the team. Nemesis in trouble. He gets the double hit there, but Hylissang on the retreat will find the counter engage and stop the fight in its tracks. Cabo now on the retreat. Reckless trying to fire forward. Devour comes out. Jizuke once again trying to dig his way to the backside, but a perfect bubble makes him sleepy. Devour not there. Tahm Kench going to try to body block desperately. Nemesis continues to throw out the poke, but it's just such a close exchange.
It's just so low HP bars all across the board, but it's Vitality pushing out the wave at the start. It was just one more bubble to land from Nemesis, and it was going to be lights out from Vitality, but they kited it well with the Fizz and the Tahm Kench to save some priority targets, and no one goes down.
Yeah, and with that control ward in the river, Vitality were able to kite back safely into their own vision and make sure that Reckless was too afraid to step up, not knowing who was going to be waiting behind Fog of War.
And I think the initial problem here for Vitality is they hit the arrow, but they hit it onto Bwipo, and all they need, you see Cabochard over on the side of the fight, he's looking for the jump in towards Reckless, in towards Nemesis, and he finally gets it, does a lot of damage on towards Nemesis, but we see another fight.
Check in live. Attila forced to burn the flash there. Reckless still with his up and available. Broxa as well. So the next time that Nocturnal is up, Attila's going to have to give a little bit more respect. And you look at the last team fight, you can see 80 carries being a huge part of their team's respective damage.
It's a really impressive work there from Attila. It is sometimes hard to team fight with the Ashe, who's very low mobility, especially when your teammates aren't all focused on protecting you. Most of his team wants to be diving into the backline, but he hit a lot of targets with that Runaan's Hurricane, and that's why you see the big number.
Yeah, that's the thing. Attila's here just for control of the fight, applying that volley to as many people as possible, making sure that he's hitting arrow, not necessarily on Bwipo this time around, whereas the real damage from the fight is going to come from Mowgli, from Cabo, from Jizuke, playing janitorial duty and cleaning up the rest of these fights.
Exactly, and looking forward to sort of that next big engagement, it's time to take stock of the summoner spells, because in that last fight, Nemesis, Jizuke, and Attila all lost their flashes. Reckless's flash is still up, and he has been playing these fights so well. Even though he still does not have a kill for himself, he has not been under too much threat from Vitality, and I'm going to have my eyes on him to carry this next 5v5.
And then it's not just summoners, but stopwatches are important as well. Now, while Mowgli and Cabo have both retained their stopwatch, Jizuke used his in the exchange, and that is difficult because Reckless's is still available, and of course Nemesis with the early Zhonya's rush means he's going to get to use it again in the fight to come. So Fnatic does feel like they have eked out a bit of an edge in the exchange overall.
They're going to be starting up the Baron here. They do have a Mountain Drake, so they do it decently quickly, and Vitality have no idea what's going on at the moment. Again, it's very difficult for them to face check in towards the river.
They have Hawk Shot.
True.
They do spot it
out.
Now we're going to get the pullback. Fnatic just trying to testing.
He's okay.
Has Tahm Kench there. We'll pull back. Jarvan doing what he can up against Yorick on the sideline, just trying to limit what the Maiden can get done.
Yeah, and I mean, I have to point out the build that Cabochard has gone for, because he's a 1k bounty on this Jarvan, 201, but now he has a serrated Dirk in the pocket. This is not too great for the 1v1 against Bwipo. He's just going to be there to try and clear waves, but his duty is to dive into the backline and look for the massive burst, tag teaming with Jizuke to nuke the backline of Fnatic.
I actually don't mind if Cabo trades his stopwatch for Reckless and Nemesis' Hourglass if he dives into that backline. Ideally, you want to get them both in the pit, so I'm curious how Nemesis and Reckless are going to play the fight, if they're going to stand together, if they're going to stand separate, and really be cognizant of Vitality's composition, how threatening it can be.
I think specifically if you're looking at Nemesis, he wants to be sort of raining artillery from the side of the fight.
Oh,
sort
yeah.
of front to back on the Zoe, not too great, but if he can use these walls to get long-range bubbles without putting himself at risk of being dove upon by this Jarvan, that's where he's going to find the majority of his success.
And anytime we talk about kind of finding those flanks or finding those avenues, being able to play from an advantageous position, it feels like it's all about setting up vision, and for now, Vitality are doing their best to control that. But when we check in on the itemization, we see Reckless respecting some of what Cabo's doing, some of what Jizuke is doing, going for the Phantom Dancer, more defensive option. But for Attila, has the Blade of the Rune King, now has the Infinity Edge and the Rune Hands as well.
Oh,
Reckless on Reckless. Big, they're not going to be able to find the chain CFCs. The body block is there. Reckless has now used the stopwatch. They're trying to buy a little bit more time with the charm and instantly deleted. The shutdown there for Vitality is massive. A 1-for-1 trade.
That's exactly the trade Vitality were looking for. Drowsy goes down onto Tom Kench. Fnatic still looking.
Want to turn, Cabo just fires right back. Zonius comes out, they're looking for the follow-up. Jizuke waiting, biding his time until it's throwing down damage for the backside. Jizuke now firing in here, but Broxa trying to get something back. Whippo trying to get something back. Attila remaining untouched. Jizuke has now gone down. Attila on the front lines, but he's been caged up. Shot not going to connect. The minions are there to block it. It is a bloody exchange.
And the call goes for Vitality to again look for another fight. Yes, they got the pick on the ADC Reckless, but they lost their jungler in return, so they couldn't immediately turn for the Baron.
They just wanted to go for another fight, and they go to pick up the side lanes in the time being. But watch this arrow onto Reckless. He tries to sneak behind Hylissang, but Hylissang jukes his own AD carry. Is not able to save him. Then he gets stunned himself. But taking that cocoon gives time for Reckless to use the stopwatch and trade kills on towards Mowgli. And after this, it looks like both sides could go ahead and back away. But you know what? I've got news for you, because Nemesis and Fnatic had a different plan. Nemesis landing sleep after sleep after sleep, but it's Cabo who gets a 3-man Cataclysm and sets up for Jizuke to pick up a kill.
And you can see exactly what he's thinking. Everyone's grouped up like that. This is so free. We've got so much AoE damage coming out of Attila, but they do trade Jizuke in the end.
Yeah, oh man, that box at the end, absolutely frustrating for Attila as well. Of course, that's the second max on the Oryx, so he's getting 4 shots to try and block through that
And look at this damage. Look at this. 3K from the Zoe, 3K from the Yorick. That Maiden doing so much work in the fight. The wall's there as well. And even when some of these individual members get deleted, still we're able to see the rest of the members of Fnatic step up here. But on the opposite side, kind of have to give more respect to Attila in that Ashe damage.
4K damage, definitely going to be good, but right now it's Fnatic with the numbers advantage in the middle lane, and it's 32 minutes. We still haven't seen a legitimate attempt at taking the Baron for either of these teams. The game is just so close at the moment that neither team wants to risk starting that objective up, because, you know, there's a lot of assassination threat on both of these teams, and if you allow yourself to get chunked out by the Baron, well, a rogue paddle star or a Fizz jumping over the wall can just immediately blow you to pieces.
But the key thing that both teams are actually missing is the vision denial. They need to go back and actually start placing some of these control wards. In fact, I'm pretty sure that, nope, Hilly went back and he didn't pick up a control ward. I was going to say, I think Hilly's going to get some right now.
Staying healthy. You said, you know, get him chunked out. He's going to heal 250 health there, Ender. You got to respect that. And it's good, though, when we check in on the amortization real quick, because while Zoe is getting closer to that death cap, and that's pretty terrifying, Jizuke now does have the Hourglass. Elise does as well, so these repeatable defensive cooldowns will be there. The GA for Cabo, too, so things steadily getting better for Vitality as we move through this game, because we have to remember, they were at a 2K deficit early in the game. It was looking brutal when they weren't able to find that farm in the side lanes.
They're having no problem finding the farm in the side lanes right now. What I want Fnatic to do, though, is get the control ward so they can make the most out of Zoe. Ender said it earlier, she needs to be throwing these bubbles from the side, from the fog of war. You need to have the vision denial so you can catch them off guard. Instead, Fnatic are playing the ARAM with Vitality and just getting picked off.
No vision in the pit. They have used the blue trinket. They need to collapse. So Reckless is lonely on that flank. The rest of the team is split away from him. He's going to dash over the wall to return to his team. Vitality with control over the pit area. Need to sweep out that ward, though, if they want to keep it dark.
Fnatic also have control over mid lane, so a big wave going to be pushing into that tower. Vitality are actually routed. Fnatic can just let the minions do their work in the mid lane. Someone has to pick those up, and now Fnatic, with the Maiden at their back, can take control over the river and set up for the Baron.
Whippo starting this one up, pretty comfortable to keep the Maiden tanking, the healing coming in from the Yorick as well at this point in the game. Looking pretty solid. Kind of starting to threaten here. Need to get the vision down. Now they're coming in from the side. The arrow hits onto Reckless once again. They're finding the chain CC. Can they find the re-engage? Hilly's gonna hit 2, but still the Ashe remains untouched. Mowgli is now slain. Hylissang, Jizuke on the front line. Vitality trying to turn it. Cabo moving in to try to take down Reckless. Jizuke's on the hunt as well. Nemesis in his eyes, but the shutdown onto Whippo, and Vitality find the fight that they need.
And it is only one Baron buff that manages to escape from Vitality's grasp, and it's just on Nemesis right there. Every other Fnatic member is wiped.
Now the question is for Vitality, what can they gain? Because mid lane they had no minions. They were not able to push. They still have 35, 40 seconds on many members of Fnatic, and they're going to be pushing up on that top side of the map, trying to take down an inhibitor.
Have a creep wave to back them up, but Nemesis can move forward. Has to be careful, though. Going down here will all but surely mean the loss of an inhibitor. May just need to play safe, back up, give up some of these tier 2s. Luckily, can just use the Baron buff to make this push a little bit slower. Death timer's counting down. 15 seconds, 16. Looking a little bit shorter. Cabo going to be able to grab this tier 2 as well, and Vitality find themselves a pretty comfortable gold lead, even if it did come at the cost of a Baron.
And the game has looked so good for Fnatic till this point. You know, Vitality, they got a couple of the team fights, but otherwise it felt like Fnatic had tempo. But constantly in these fights, the CC is finding Reckless.
And Vitality know how to play these team fights. Brilliant stun there coming out from Attila. And then watch how the fight gets split. Nemesis and Reckless, they're on top of each other. Like we said, they never could be. It split the damage from the front line. Front line gets destroyed. Then you have Cabochard and Jizuke, men on a mission. They get the kill on towards Reckless, and as you can see on the other half, without the damage, it's just not a winnable fight for Fnatic.
The only saving grace is the fact that Fnatic managed to secure the Baron, because if Vitality had gotten there, it would have been game over.
And one thing we have to remember is that we look at a lot of these team fights, and it's none of this is front to back. This is not protect the AD carry into the late game. This is so many people trying to dive onto the respective backlines to kill these targets, to try to jump in here. And overall, this is an incredibly important game for Fnatic. And while they started off on such a good foot, we look at their performance yesterday, their early game today, you thought maybe they could just dominate. But that might not be the case, as Vitality are determined to retain their spot at the top of the league.
And look how different a story this game has immediately become. For 30 minutes, Fnatic had complete control over the game. One bad team fight. Fnatic now have all control over the map.
And I've got good news and I've got bad news, Fnatic fans. Good news is Reckless has a QSS. Bad news is Reckless has a QSS and he needs to press it. So,
Definitely had it in the last fight, by the way.
the bad news.
He bought that the second after he got stunned in the mid lane, Frosco. So it was there. He may have had to burn it on something else.
That's the point, Dracos. Thank you.
Thank you, Frosco.
You're welcome.
Jizuke now coming through on the side lane, has a few more items under his belt, building towards the death cap, so the Fizz just continues to get scarier and scarier, but Fnatic seem determined to force out this mid lane to get a little bit more priority. Mowgli sadly just tickling at this stage of the game.
Now watch Jizuke on the flank. There's no flash on towards Reckless, no flash onto Nemesis. They land the arrow and they get the TP.
I'm saying, Kaba looking for the flank. Broxah may go forward, but he needs to go back. They're trying to shut down Jizuke, but Jizuke just instantly goes up into the air. Ulti is not going to connect. Kabo now on the retreat. Sonya's now coming out, or rather GA coming out. They are on the back off here, and things are actually going okay for Fnatic in the end.
Yeah, that's all the big ultimates. That was the Fizz ultimate, that was the Jarvan ultimate, the Ashe ultimate. None of it connected and managed to kill Fnatic. So hopefully they can regain their footing, reset the map, start to turn this one around.
Now Vitality, they're moving into this bottom side jungle because the next large objective spawning, Elder Dragon, in 45 seconds. Fnatic currently have 3 elemental drakes to their name. Securing that objective could turn the next fight in their favor, but because Vitality took that fight in the mid lane, it gave them control now to have complete domination over Fnatic's red side jungle.
And we're late enough in the game now that a lot of these major ultimates are on pretty short cooldowns. You check in on Jizuke and he's already got the Shark back up and available. Attila will have the Ashe Arrow shortly, despite not itemizing any cooldown reduction. So early on in the game, that may have cost them a huge window of opportunity, but now, not nearly as much.
And it's scary because Reckless still doesn't have access to his flash, so he needs to be so cautious in these team fights. If you watched in the last team fight, he was literally just zipping around in the back line trying to dive everything.
Yeah, Vitality should be starting this objective absolutely the second it spawns here. Fnatic know it's going to happen, but Vitality should have the advantage in the fight. Keep in mind right now, they're getting the lane priority in that middle side, so they can just back away here because now Fnatic is the one without access to the mid.
I think I said dive, meant dodge. He's trying to dodge everything.
They take this fast.
Jizuke on the flank, though. The vision is here. Oh my God! Gets it! What? There is no Summoner Spellbook. There is no Smite. Jack Troll on the top edge. The Ashe pulling forward. Vitality ready. They're ready to go for the throat. They're ready to end the game. Yamato can't believe it. Jizuke is just buying time while the rest of the team continues. Kabo will also try to buy time. They are splitting up the map. They are focused. Vitality, this is the most quintessential moment in your history. The tongue to steal it all. The game could end here, but Fnatic want to turn it.
Fnatic, they have the teleports, they have the resets now. They got 2 shutdowns onto the solo laners of Vitality, but what an absurd play here from the Vitality.
What is this? How does this keep happening?
How do they keep doing this?
It's like when they made a D&D character, Vitality just specced everything in luck. They just took all of their points and they just jammed it in there.
I can't believe it. This replay brought to you by Alienware, and let's talk about luck right here.
I mean, Jack
How does this
knows
happen?
how to lick with the Tom Kitchen. Gets it right there. How do you miss that? I can't believe Broxah could not secure that.
Still has, I mean, that could be a spectator bug. I don't want to say he still has Smite available, but wow. Tom Kench, there are no aggressive items there. That is just base damages, but I'm going to be honest, Jack Troll was definitely not on the player of the game vote up until now, and he probably is at this point.
Now he's gotta be Dragos.
Fnatic, though, the game, despite this going over to them, the inhibitor going down, the game is still balanced on a knife edge. 40 minutes into the game, the gold means less and less, and the Baron means more and more. Fnatic have this one started up. It is getting shredded through Mowgli. Moment of chance. Can he steal it? Flash over the wall. Broxy is going to get that one, though, and now the fight needs to break out. Vitality need to find the edge here. Moving forward. Mowgli incredibly low. Locked up here. Hylissang's going to find the ball. Reckless raining down hell with the calling on the back line. Mowgli immediately deleted, and Vitality are down the tree. But Atrilla just dishing out damage across the fight. A drowsy combo shard means he will not go down. Just barely missing on the super trouble ball. Combo's able to escape. Nemesis on the hunt. He gets the shutdown. Fnatic looking to turn it back. Hylissang still trying to chase it. Reckless taking control of the mid lane, and Attila on the retreat.
Look, we have big death timers. Hylissang still looking for Jack Troll, not quite going to find it, but Fnatic have the members, they have the minions, they're going to look to push it straight down mid lane.
Attila now backing off. Vitality need to hold here, but the Baron buff is there. Yorick is there with the ghouls as well. They can just look to break through this tower, brute force it down. Attila, Jizuke, and Jack Troll need to make a hold, but it is 34 seconds until Cabo and counting down. Just on the retreat, throwing out the ultimate. It's not going to find any purchase. It's not going to connect. Fnatic need to end the game here. Cannot afford to let this go for another team fight. Nemesis stepping forward, getting the damage down on the tower. Fnatic may just look to end it here. Jizuke now stepping forward. Is this the hero moment? Attila now on a killing spree. Still the Apps is alive. Jack Troll stepping forward. Mowgli is up. Reckless steps forward though. This is his moment, and he shines right when the team needs him most. What goes up must come down. He will drop in the end. Vitality are routed.
That was some League of Legends right there. I mean, Fnatic, it looked dire when the Elder Dragon did not go their way, but that did not stop them. They headed straight for the Baron buff, and in that last fight, Hylissang, Reckless, they played like monsters come out on top.
And for so long in the game, Attila was untouched in the backline, and it plagued Fnatic. But when push came to shove, when they had the man advantage, when it came down to those final moments, they found in the backline, they take him out, and they end the game.
And this is a 2-0 week now for Fnatic, taking down both Origin and Vitality. We thought they were dead in the water, that playoffs were done and done, but this squad has never missed playoffs. And now, finding that momentum in their final hour.
And Reckless, you know, he said he wouldn't get excited, he wouldn't talk about anything else. He said, I don't want it. We're going to have to get the 2-0 week first, but you got it now. And maybe now the Fnatic fans can get revved up again, knowing that that playoffs is just right around the corner. A few more wins, and they can just check it off the list.
Oh man, Dracos, I'm excited for this Fnatic team now. As you said, Frost, this team did not look good when it was going to come towards that playoff race, but after 2 clutch wins this weekend, they are looking to not only come in and breach that 6th place spot, but make a deep run into the playoffs.
Huge credit where credit is due. I don't know what they found, if it was the Space Jam secret sauce, if it was finding their Wheaties in the morning, but Fnatic look all sorts on the right pages. Broxa, right side of the map, right time. Whippo no longer overextending, giving these deaths. Nemesis is getting resources and actually showing up in these lanes, trading these 1v1 kills against some of the top mid laners in Europe, and Reckless is performing when it matters.
And here's the thing that I'm excited for, is that if Fnatic make it into playoffs, Vitality make it into playoffs, what if we get a best of 5 of that? 40 minutes, incredible back and forth. Well, the key player of the game vote is now live. At LO Esports on Twitter is the place. You can head over there and vote for Broxa, Nemesis, or Whippo. Definitely a difficult call. So many highlight moments across that series from both sides. But for more on Week 6, let's head over to Shocks and Friends in the LEC post-game lobby.